Happy Hanukkah and happy Sunday. What is Hanukkah? For our sages have taught us, on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, there are 8 days upon which there should be neither mourning or fasting. For when the Greeks entered the temple, they defied all the oil that was there. It was when the might of the Hasmonean dynasty overcame and vanquished them, that upon search only a single cruet of undefiled oil, sealed by the high priest, was found. In it was oil enough for the needs of a single night. The miracle was wrought, and it burned for 8 days. The next year they ordained these days as a holiday with songs and praises. An example, or an updated example of what that miracle means, is let's say you went on a camping trip, and you found that your cell phone only had 10% power, and you didn't have a charger. And for some miracle, it lasted for 8 days, and you're still able to call and check your baseball scores. Okay?
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength we need to never become our own foe. And light one candle for those who are suffering pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, let anger not tear us apart. And light one candle to bind us together, peace with a song in our hearts. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly? We keep it alive in the flame. What's the commitment for those who have died? We cry out they've not died in vain. We've come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, this is the promise, this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light
Well, that was fun. Thanks.
That's how it ends on the recording, sorry.
Good morning. My name is Susan Tarragano, and I serve on the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. It's my delight to welcome you all here this morning, whether you are here in person or joining us virtually. This is a welcoming congregation where everyone is welcome just as we are. There are many important announcements on the sheet titled Connect at the back of your bulletin this morning. Please open your bulletin to see all that you can be a part of. Allow me to share a few now. Welcome to visitors. If you are visiting with us this morning, we would love to meet you and share more about the life of this congregation. Visitor cards may be found in the pocket on the back of the chair in front of you. Please feel welcome to fill one out and place it in the offering plate during the service so we can connect with you. Our winter solstice celebration will take place this Wednesday, December 21st at 6:30 p.m. Weather permitting, we will gather on the back lawn of UUCS. If weather is inclement, we will gather here in the sanctuary. Come and feel the darkness, chant and drum, and bear light through the darkest night of the year. Then on Saturday evening, December 24th at 6:30 p.m., we will celebrate our Christmas candlelight service here in the sanctuary. This intergenerational celebration of light and carols across all of our traditions is a time to be together as one great family. Come and share the joy of the season. On Christmas morning, Sunday, December 25th at 11 a.m., we will hold a Christmas Day brunch here at UUCS in the Fellowship Hall instead of the sanctuary. Come for carols, a story, a potluck brunch instead of a full Sunday service. Dress is Christmas casual, and thank you to Ann Gardner and Jewel Clotter for leading us. And on New Year's Day, Sunday, January 1st at 11 a.m., we will hold our regular Sunday morning service. Start the new year with laughter with our community's rabbi, Yossi Leibowitz, leading our Sunday service to bring in 2023. Coffee hour for January will be on January 8th and the 15th. Thank you for making this a place of warmth and kindness every time we gather across all of our differences. Thank you, everyone, for all you do and all that you give to make this world a more livable place for all of us. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to see you this morning. Every winter, we celebrate, and we celebrate in many ways. And every winter, one of the celebrations that we observe is Hanukkah. Now, some of us are Jewish, and it is meaningful within our Jewish life and practice to join with this congregation of difference to share our traditions and celebrate. Some of us have Jewish ancestry or Jewish partnership, Jewish kinship, and it is meaningful to touch those roots, those parts of our family and community life to celebrate Hanukkah. And some of us are not Jewish at all, but we have all been shaped by the gifts of Judaism to our world and our culture for millennia. When we gather to celebrate like this, it's useful for us to be clear. We are not here to pretend to be something that some of us are not. And we are not here to co-opt. We're not here to imitate. We are here to stand with each other in traditions that are deep, deep in the heart of some of us, and a new learning for others of us every year. And especially in a time when we see the rise of anti-Semitism again all around us, in our nation and in our world, we stand together to light lights and to say that whatever our identity, we are a people who love each other and protect each other and who illuminate this world together. Welcome.
Hey, good morning. I'm Palma Eisner, and I'll be your worship associate today. At this time of the year, when the sun is most hidden, the holiday of Hanukkah celebrates the rays of hope and light. Often, it is through simple and unrecognized miracles that we are able to feel the warmth of hope and love. Raphael Goldstein.
Let me come in and share your light, for I'm without a friend tonight. Let me come in and share your light, and a warm place by your fire.
We invite you to share your joys and concerns by visiting our Rippling Bowl. This is the way we hold one another in care. Share what is in our heart and be comforted in knowing that here, your joys and concerns are held by all of us that are here and all of us that are watching at home. Our covenant was written by this congregation. It guides the way in which we live in relation to one another. These words, powerful when they were written, continue to gain power as our congregation truly embraces these words. Hear them and know that they are intentional. Know that we take them seriously as we strive to create the world that we know is possible. So let us join our voices now and speak the truth of our covenant. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of love beyond belief. Now, this is a joyful time in our service when we get to greet one another. So just be mindful of how each other wants to be greeted and enjoy. Trying to see where they're going. I know you would love to do this for another half hour, but okay, now, this is also the time in the service when our generous congregation could show their generosity. So if you can, give what you can. Otherwise, just hold the plate and pass it on and give your love, as I know all of you do. Hanukkah is called the Festival of Lights. It commemorates the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem during a Jewish rebellion led by the Maccabees against the Greeks in 164 BC. This temple, the holiest site in the world for Jews, was restored. As the story goes, they searched for oil to light the menorah, but what they found was only enough oil to light it for one night. Yet a miracle happened, and they were able to use the oil for 8 days. This event occurred in the winter solstice in late December, making the lighting of festive lamps a natural way to celebrate the shortest day of the year. For Hanukkah, our family chooses to light each candle with intention.
Peace. The first Hanukkah candle of the year sparks a call for peace. Just as the world wasn't peaceful in the times of the Maccabees, it's still not peaceful today. In the words of Jimi Hendrix, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Let this candle be a spark of peace for me, my family, my friends, and everyone on this earth.
Acceptance. The second Hanukkah candle sparks acceptance. Gaining acceptance of others, of ourselves and others, relieves aggravation and makes room for love. On this night, let's remember that most people need acceptance more than they need advice.
Repairing the world. The third Hanukkah candle sparks a desire to repair the world. There is so much to do, but what if each of us really considered it our responsibility? There once was a man who stood before God, his heart breaking from the pain and injustice in the world. Dear God, he cried out, look at all the suffering and the anguish in the world. Why don't you send help? God replied, I did. I sent you.
The golden rule. The fourth Hanukkah candle sparks treating people how you would want to be treated. Someone once said to the wise Rabbi Hillel, stand on one foot and quickly teach me the entire Torah. So Rabbi Hillel stood on one foot and said, that which is hateful to you, do not do to anyone else. All the rest is commentary. Sometimes people call this the golden rule. Whatever you want to call it, the fourth candle reminds us to treat others as we would want to be treated.
Compassion. The fifth Hanukkah candle sparks compassion. Compassion for ourselves, our friends, animals, even those who we don't like that much. Being compassionate can change everything. You can either practice being right or practice being kind.
Diversity. The sixth candle sparks the importance of honoring how diverse our world is. No one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin, their cultural background, their religious beliefs, or their sexual orientation. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can learn to love, because love comes more naturally to the human heart. Nelson Mandela.
Forgiveness. Forgiveness is not just for Yom Kippur. The seventh candle sparks forgiveness, which in some cases is wildly difficult to achieve, but is always worth the effort. The first to apologize is the bravest. The first to forgive is the strongest. The first to forget is the happiest.
Gratitude. We at the end of Hanukkah, the big finale. The final eighth candle sparks gratitude. Showing gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful things humans can do for each other. When we light the Hanukkah candles, we say two blessings. One is for the candles, and one is for the holiday of Hanukkah. Mitch will recite these blessings as I light the menorah. Now, tonight is the first night, so there'll only be one candle, plus the center candle, which is called the shamas, which is what's used to light the other candles.
And now you know why I'm not invited to the choir. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivonu l'halik ner shel Hanukkah, which translates into, praise be our God, ruler of the universe, who has made us holy through your commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. The second blessing is, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, she'asha nisim lavotenu, bayamin hahem ba'azman hazer, which translates to, Praise be our God, ruler of the universe, who performed wondrous deeds for our ancestors in those ancient times of the season.
Okay, so now I'm going to just talk about my personal history and a little bit about, as Scott mentioned, there's a rise of anti-Semitism, not only in this country, but in the world. So for those of you who don't know me, those of you who may know me, I'll give you a little background. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I'm sure you can't tell from my accent. And I was raised by Italian Catholic parents. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. And then, growing up in my neighborhood, I was very lucky. I grew up in a diverse neighborhood. My best friend on one side was a Jewish girl. My other best friend around the corner was black. And then across the street was an Irish girl. We used to hang out together all the time. I used to go to synagogue with my Jewish friend. I used to go with my black friend to her church because I love gospel music. And they would come to me when the Catholic Church was doing folk music at that time. I don't know if any of you remember that, but at one point they started doing folk masses with guitars. So that was fun for the kids. So we shared each other's backgrounds, each other's culture, each other's food. Our families were friends. And I basically thought that's what the world was like, accepting of everyone. Later on, when I went to work, I met my first husband, my ex-husband, and we decided to get married, and he was Jewish, and I had the blessing of my family. So we wanted to plan our honeymoon. So I spoke to a friend from high school who told me her cousin was a travel agent, and she stayed at this wonderful hotel in Bermuda. So I called her cousin, and I said, we'd love to book that hotel. She said, oh, it's a great hotel, yeah, and I'll come in, I'll show you all the rooms, and we made an appointment to see her after work. My fiance was already there when I got there, and he said to me, there's no rooms available at that hotel. I says, how could that be? I just spoke to her. So she looked at me, she goes, I didn't know who you were marrying. And I said, what? She said, that's a no Jews allowed hotel. And I said, really? So she said, oh yeah, travel agents are told not to book Jewish people there. They don't want them. You'll be miserable if you go there. I'll give you a couple of other choices. I was really furious. My fiance at the time, he wasn't really all that upset because he said, look, this happens all the time. Just go. We don't have to stay there. We'll go to another hotel. And that was my first reality of what it was like in the world to be Jewish, because I didn't grow up Jewish, even though I had a lot of Jewish friends, right? Now, I remember going to the synagogue with my friends and seeing all these police cars outside. And I said to her, what happened? And she said, oh, nothing happened. We always get police protection when we have our services. I said, really? We don't have that at the church? She said, oh, well, we have to have that at Jewish services in New York. It's a given. And that was also their reality. So the next time I had an experience, my father had passed away, and my aunt and I went to the florist to pick out flowers for the service. So my aunt's talking to the florist, and she's trying to talk about prices. And he said, are you trying to Jew me down? So I said to him, what? He says, like Jews do. All they do is bargain. No Jew ever wants to pay full price for anything. So I says, excuse me. I said, I'm Jewish. He says, no, you're not. You're burying your dad, who's Catholic. I said, yeah, but I'm Jewish, and maybe you should be careful what you say. Then he got flustered and embarrassed, and he apologized. But I realized at that point that I had a unique experience, and that people who didn't know I converted to Judaism felt very free to say their anti-Semitic remarks and tell me how they really felt when they thought they would look being with one of their own kind. So that was an eye-opening experience for me. So I've heard those terms, Jew me down. I've heard the term Jew giver. We were on a trip in Arizona where a group of Texans had come on a tour bus, and our tour bus was there. It was me and a couple of friends, and we were all Jewish, and we were waiting online to buy Native American jewelry. And the woman in front of me says to the guy, I can't decide, maybe I'll just be a Jew giver. Now, I could have let it go and not said anything, but that's not in my DNA. So as my ex-husband at that time backed up and went on the bus, I said, "Excuse me, can you tell me what that means?" She says, "What does what mean?" I said, "Jew giver." She says, "You know, like the Jews do, you know, they buy something, either they wear it themselves and they give it away, but they always never give you a gift unless they want something in return." So I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, I'm Jewish, and so are these three ladies behind me, and we've never done that, and we never heard that." Now, what could have been a big altercation, because, I mean, she's standing next to her husband, who was a big Texan with the hat, and I'm not too big. And she said, "You know what?" She said, "I just say that all the time because that's what my mom used to say, and I never realized how offensive that could be. And I really, in my life, never met a Jewish person." And she actually apologized. So I felt that maybe I spoke up, and maybe I made a difference in this one little instance, and maybe she wouldn't say that anymore. But what I feel now is I think the rise of anti-Semitism is happening now because of social media, because you constantly hear these kinds of things on social media. It says, these stereotypical views seem to be prevalent in our society. So although anti-Semitism has been around for many years, I think they're fueled by the social media. The Holocaust deniers, the violent white supremacists who are neo-Nazis. And I think it's on a rise in this country and around the world. I really worry about the world my grandchildren will inherit. I personally do not feel comfortable putting my electric menorah in the window. But I hope that my grandchildren, their generation, will be able to do that and feel that they are part of this world, and they don't have to worry about those kind of fears. Rabbi Stephen Lerner said, "A decade ago, I promised from the pulpit America was different and better, and Jews should stop acting like all the roads lead to Auschwitz. I still believe in America. We're not on our way to Auschwitz, but lately, it sure feels like we're on the wrong road, shamefully heading in the wrong direction." When you have people, celebrities and people who have TikTok followers or great followers constantly spewing anti-Semitism, that's going to get out to the general public. There was an incident just yesterday in Brooklyn where an elderly man was walking and a guy beat him up from behind and started yelling anti-Semitic things at him. And then he yelled Kanye West for 2024. Thank God the man wasn't, he was hospitalized, but he'll be okay. So I feel that I know I will always be able to speak out against this, and I know my family will. And to quote Elie Wiesel, "There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest." And I think that this congregation does all that, and I really feel that people like you can change the world. And thank you very much for listening.
Join me in silence. Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama sat down with each other to have a set of conversations about joy. What creates joy? The person convening them and helping them to turn those dialogues into a book is a man named Douglas Abrams. So you have a Christian, a Buddhist, and a Jew sitting down with each other to talk about joy. And their coming together reminds us that in these winter months, we celebrate many celebrations. From Judaism, Hanukkah. From Christianity, Christmas. From Buddhism, celebration of the Buddha's enlightenment. And solstice, and Kwanzaa, and many celebrations where people gather in darkness to share light. And these three men sitting with each other, reflecting on joy, experience something totally merciless, almost cruel. And if you read this book or listen to it, you'll hear over and over again this relentless, merciless theme coming up over and over again. The Archbishop Desmond Tutu constantly turns to the Dalai Lama in this book and mercilessly says to him, I don't think all those people that come to the auditoriums all over the world to hear you speak are really there to hear you speak at all. I mean, tens and hundreds of thousands of people packing into football stadiums to come and hear you speak. Nobody comes like that to hear me speak. I don't think they're there to hear you speak at all. Dalai Lama, says Desmond Tutu, Dalai Lama, you don't even speak English that well. I don't think they're really there to hear what you have to say. And you know, honestly, if you have sat to listen to the Dalai Lama speak, you probably didn't stay to hear exactly what he had to say, because it's not always easy to understand exactly what he has to say. After all, he's speaking like a third or fourth language when he's speaking to us in English. But Desmond Tutu just pounding away at the Dalai Lama. People aren't there to hear what you have to say. And you might say the same thing about this congregation. We're not here to hear what you have to say. And I would say that that's good. We're here for something different than words and ideas. And Desmond Tutu, softening towards his friend, who he mercilessly teases in this book, says, they're not coming for your words. They're coming for the light that you bring, for your presence. To which the Dalai Lama responds with an enormous chuckle. The presence that we offer each other is a source of profound communication. We are all intellectuals here. By default, when you walk through this door, you are an intellectual. And we care about words and ideas. We care about books and teachings and stories. All of those things are important. It is the presence that we communicate that shines a light more eloquent than all of those words. Think of what Palma has just shared. We can think of a gathering of men from many different backgrounds sitting at a table in Florida to share ideas that I might find repulsive. Ideas of white supremacy and political domination and all the things that narcissists say when they sit around a table with each other. But it is the presence that gathering exudes that is so damaging and frightening in our culture. Dalai Lama, I don't think people who come to hear you speak are there to hear you talk at all. They're there for your light, for your presence. And the Dalai Lama just laughed at his friends teasing. And then he shared something. A practice that he uses when groups gather around him. And a practice that he uses when he sees people gathering in the world, for good or for ill. A practice of giving and receiving. A practice of compassion. Because on the Dalai Lama's teaching, the path to joy is the path of being with each other, of caring for each other, of having compassion for one another, being one another in our suffering. Practice works like this. A hospital chaplain was called to an emergency, the worst kind that chaplains face. She had gotten a call on her phone to rush to the emergency room where not one but 2 children were being treated for a drowning accident. And it was not at all clear that either would survive. Now, this chaplain felt in herself as she moved through the hallways to rush this family's aid, absolute dread, not knowing what would await her when she arrived in the unit, and not wanting to go because this is terrible. Whatever the outcome, the circumstances of what have taken place are terrible. But duty compels, responsibility compels, vocation compels. And as she made her way down those hallways to where those children would be, she began to hear the wailing of a mother. And everything in her wanted to turn around and run. Compassion is hard. It is a difficult choice. There may be an instinct in us that turns to one another to help, and that is good. If you see me in help, please act on that instinct. And I will do my best to do that for you too. But when we see terrible things in the world, violence and hate and plotting and cruelty and just accidents and sickness and tragedy, it is a natural response to want to turn away, to get away from that, to not get wrapped up in it, because those things are the hardest things. As this chaplain neared the room, knowing that she needed to be there, that she needed to enter in, she remembered the teaching of the Dalai Lama, and she adopted his simple practice of giving and receiving. It works just like this. Whatever that shadow is in the world, that duty calls us to face, whatever that thing is that has come in the world that we would love to run from, but cannot avoid, can choose to turn to face it and to breathe it in. To breathe it in. To draw to us the darkness. And as it approaches us, to invite that darkness, whatever it is, to pass through the light that is emanating from our hearts. The Dalai Lama says, as that darkness draws towards you by your own invitation, envision that darkness passing through the light that is emanating from the lamp of your heart, the fire of your heart. He doesn't even say, imagine that your heart is a lamp. Imagine that there is light coming from you. He just says that it is. Cycle that darkness through your light and send light back out into the room that you're entering. The chaplain did this practice, drawing in whatever awaited was already so painful in that room, and passing it through her, moving back into the room an energy of love and compassion. She says that as she walked into the room, she could feel her own body changing, her openness and receptivity to whatever awaited changing, fully cognizant of the painful reality that awaited, fully aware that this would be difficult, but open in herself in an entirely different way to be there with the people in that room and whatever would come. The Dalai Lama says that he exercises this practice whenever protesters in Tibet encounter Chinese authorities who suppress their protest. And he offers this practice for the protesters, for their strength and their resilience, for their courage, for their enduring witness to the oppression of the Chinese government against the people of Tibet. And he offers this practice for the Chinese police and soldiers and authority as well, for their transformation too. This sounds ridiculous. It sounds like total foolishness. It sounds dangerous. Why would we choose to breathe in the pain of the world? Why would we risk that in ourselves? The Dalai Lama, in his deep-hearted chuckle, offers us this as the great paradox of our lives. That when we pass shadow through our light, a transformation happens. And as we cycle this again and again through ourselves, our own capacity for compassion deepens. And we find a joy that does not flee from reality, does not try to numb us to the difficulties of the world, is not an evasion from all that is hardest in life, but in paradox, by turning to face it, changes it into hope and joy. Think of the lights of this season. Lights on houses and windows, lights in churches and in synagogues. Those lights shine out in darkness, and they are a brazen witness to the hope and possibility of our lives. This year, every menorah that is lit in the United States is a witness against anti-Semitism. Every Kwanzaa candle that is lit in the United States is a witness against 5 centuries of white supremacy. Think of what those lights say, pushing out against the darkness. And think about how they change the very darkness that surrounds them. They are not just there in contrast. As you drive through streets tonight, think about how the lights of this season make the very darkness itself luminous. Beautiful, silent nights of this beloved season. Teaching of Desmond Tutu and of the Dalai Lama, of Douglas Abrams, and of each of their traditions, and of Mitch and Palma with us today, the teaching of our lives is that we are that light too.
this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be with God our Creator. Children all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you both. That was beautiful. Okay, before I extinguish the chalice, there was just one more thing I wanted to say before, but I forgot to mention it. What's very upsetting to Jewish people is the people who deny the Holocaust. And though the generation of people that lived through that are slowly leaving this world as they get older. I have a personal story. When I was engaged to my ex-husband, I met his grandmother for the first time, and she held my hand and she welcomed me to the family. And she told me that she was born in Poland. She was raised there as a young Jewish girl. She was on her honeymoon in New York when she got a telegram from her mother saying, "Don't come home, things are getting worse here." So she stayed in New York with an aunt, and she never saw anyone from her family ever again. All of them that lived in Poland were gone. Her cousins, her sister, her brother, her mother, her father, her husband's family, all of them. So they had no one left other than the family that they were going to create. So when people tell you that the Holocaust didn't exist, it did, and there are people that could attest to that. So Jewish people all over the world will continue to talk and stand for those people who can't talk for themselves anymore. So, Hanukkah is about the freedom to be true to what we believe without denying the freedom of those who believe otherwise. It's about lighting our candle while not being threatened by or threatening anyone else's candle. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs.
The Dalai Lama says, don't get tangled in your own microphone. That's exactly what he sounds like when he laughs. The Dalai Lama says, you can draw darkness towards you and transform it through your light. Because you are light.